Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Dr. John Weil, the Dean of the Political Science Department at Middle Tennessee State University. Dr. Weil, both President Obama, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton have all given sort of speeches and comments about let's all come together, let's be united. There was some concern about that regardless of which way this election was going to go. Are we going to have a pretty successful transfer of power? That has been the cornerstone of our
since
American
1800.
system.
I mean, that's, if there's anything that's characterized American politics, and you know, when we talk about bitterness, I got a query yesterday from a reporter, and I was reminding her that in 1800, or 1801, I guess it was, John Adams was so disaffected that he went home. He didn't stay for the inauguration.
He was not president.
And John Quincy Adams.
He made midnight appointments the day before he left.
Well, he did.
Including John Marshall, the Supreme Court.
He sure did. What'll be really fascinating is to see, you know, what happens in the first 100 days of the Trump administration. He has outlined as ambitious an agenda as anyone, at least since Franklin Roosevelt.
Is he setting himself and his followers up for disappointment? Because I looked through that 100-day plan, and it's extremely ambitious, and a lot of our things that he might get started on, but there's no way almost any of them will get done in that.
You know, we've had a bit of that in the last 8 years. If you think of all the optimism and the hope that, you know, when Obama was first elected, and he's done some of what he said, but clearly, you know, he didn't get nearly as much done as he expected.
Well, the 100-day thing has come to a lot of politicians. I think it first happened because of what Roosevelt did when he came in to do the New Deal.
Yes.
But is that a good measuring point? Is that one really that elected officials ought to put on themselves? Because it's going to put some pressure on him, perhaps in a way he's never seen it before.
You know, they used to say that Moses had 10 commandments and Wilson had 14, you know, the 14 points. And you know, there is always the danger of overload. The one thing a new president can do, executive orders for the most part are revocable. And so you could repeal a good number of those in the first couple of days. You can get a lot of things started, but whether you'll see them to completion is another matter.
We mentioned earlier the president-elect is trying to be very conciliatory in a lot of the comments that he's made so far, but there are these reports coming in around the country about an increase since the election of racial slurs being made to people, about swastikas being put up, things like this. Does the president-elect need to speak out about that as well, along with just the general things that he talked about in his speech on election night?
It may be one of these. You know, he did do something similar with the Klan and with Duke earlier, you know, sort of repudiating their support. I'm not sure it's to the level yet. You know, sometimes you can magnify something by giving it more attention than it really deserves. A lot of this, particularly what you see in high schools, I mean, it's not good behavior, but, you know, they're high school students. Kids are going to have these kind of reactions.
Mr. Trump was the first president that we'll have who has never had previous elected experience in office, never been in the military at a high level either. Is that going to wind up, a lot of people seem to think that's going to be a handicap, but is that going to make him a different president? Might it perhaps turn out to be a positive for him?
We'll see. I mean, I just don't know.
He's also not the first president to come to Washington to say, I'm coming here and I'm going to change this place. I'm going to drain the swamp.
Well,
how will that work with not having any direct government experience?
Well, it could mean that he'll have to rely more heavily on the political party than he otherwise would. I mean, there really has not been that much connection between him and the Republican Party prior to this election. Maybe that will be positive.
He does have the benefit of having Republicans controlling both houses of the Congress.
And he has a Supreme Court, you know, one nominee almost guaranteed and likelihood of at least one or two more.
Do you think the Democrats will try to block his appointments to the Supreme Court? Because yes, the Republicans control the Senate, but they don't have 60 votes. And generally speaking, in the Senate, if you don't have 60 votes, it's difficult unless they invoke those special rules.
You know, there were Republicans who were threatening to go the next 4 years without confirming anyone. I didn't think that was a very good precedent to set, and I think with the momentum that he has, that he will certainly be able to get the first one through. What I think has been established is if one comes up in the last year and a half of his presidency, a vacancy, I think the other side is going to hold it.
Well, he also has a situation where his relationships with the leadership in both houses of the Congress are not good. He and Paul Ryan particularly warred back and forth. He and Mitch McConnell have had their disagreements. In fact, Mitch McConnell has already said his idea, the first thing in his 100-day plan is to pass a constitutional amendment for term limits, and that's not even going to be on the majority leader's agenda.
Well, it's not going to be on the minority agenda either.
And if it's not on the agendas up there, no matter what the president wants, it's not happening.
Well, and that's one that, requires a constitutional amendment, which again is a very difficult process.
So he knows the art of the deal. He's written books about it. Does he know the art of the deal in Washington?
When Eisenhower was elected president, Truman turned to his people and he said, this isn't going to work. He's going to think he's in the military and he's going to issue an order and nothing's going to happen. Turns out Ike was able to adapt. Hopefully, Trump will be able to adapt in a similar way.
One thing that never changes in politics is that when one presidential race ends, the other.
Oh my goodness!
We've already started. For
I'm not speculating on the next one yet.
And very briefly, the Democrats have to figure something out. They thought they had a victory, they didn't. So they're going to be the one that has to do the.
And it's topsy-turvy. Everyone thought it was going to be the Republican Party that was going to fall apart, and they were going to be having these conversations.
Are the Democrats ready to do this? I mean, remember what Will Rogers said about the Democratic Party.
He didn't belong to an organized political party. He's a Democrat. Yes, it looks like it may apply to both parties now.
Dr. Vial, thank you so much for coming in.
Enjoyed being here.
It's been an incredible election, and
it sure has. It sure has.
And thank you for joining us on Inside Politics this week. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.